Hi, it's Kiffin Lobates here. So I thought I'd talk a bit about sidechains and the Lightning Network, particularly for Bitcoin. So the idea of a sidechain is that you can overcome the problem there is with traditional blockchains such as Bitcoin or Ethereum by running a separate secondary chain next to it. And what you do is, when you start off such a sidechain, you lock up some of the coins from the main chain with a transaction that says these can now no longer be used, and then you use the side chain to submit transactions back and forth between any number of parties that are effectively referencing those locked up coins. And what that allows you to do is have this second chain that can maybe process the transactions much more quickly, and that doesn't suffer from the congestion that the big main chain has, where there are limitations to how many transactions you can put in a block, and therefore you're trying to deal with the transactions of the entire world. Instead, you're only dealing with the transactions of a handful of people. And then at the end of this process, when there's been a bit of transacting to and fro and coins on the side chain have changed hands a number of times, eventually what you can do is you can settle, where the actions that took place on the side chain are all tallied up, and you work out of the coins that were locked up on the main chain who gets what proportion of them based on the transactions that took place on the side chain. And then at the end it's all settled on the main blockchain. So that is the main blockchain acting kind of like a clearance bank or a settlement bank, and the side chain is acting as a fast method for actually doing transmittal of coins. And in Bitcoin, the chain that is most popular for doing these sort of off the main Bitcoin blockchain transactions is called the Lightning Network, and it has been launched, although I think it is still undergoing some testing. I'll have to check that when I get back later. But the whole idea is very, very neat, and it functions because you can effectively produce transactions on the main chain that are not yet redeemable. There's a delay before they can actually be settled, and they are kind of only partially signed. So it's a bit like people going into a poker game and each person putting a check on the table that has their amount that they're getting chips for, but they haven't signed the check. And then they do all the gambling, and then at the end people who lost and have debts sign their checks and give them to the people who received the winnings. So that's a kind of half-baked analogy on how these sidechains actually work. Anyway, they're interesting, worth having a look at, and I do think they are going to solve some of the problems that we're seeing with congestion and transaction rates. I do think that we're going to see Bitcoin moving towards more of a bulk settlement chain, and some of these sidechains handling things like buying a cup of coffee or small microtransactions, that kind of thing. IoT devices talking to each other and exchanging tokens in order to pay for data or services. Anyway, that's today's post on sidechains and the Lightning Network. I was hoping, given that there is a storm going on behind me, that there would actually be some lightning striking, but unfortunately I can't orchestrate the weather. Anyway, see you in the next video soon. Bye for now.